You had a girlfriend did that. It's a little bit harder because now she's going to feel the neglect. And then say she puts up with it for all of a sudden you get married, and she's expecting to see more of you. Yeah. She doesn't. And then you get, this is literally my life, by the way. I'm just telling you like my life. Then all of a sudden she's pregnant.
It's been all of our life.
She's pregnant, and then all of a sudden you have a child. So now you have a whole family, and you've built this thing. And now your clients or your employer has, well, this is what he does because you've set that.
Guys, I'm so excited for 7 North Royal. It's going to be a great podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm so stoked.
It's a killer idea.
How are y'all feeling today?
Honestly, like we've got a lot going on at the studio. We've got a couple of clients that we're working on some big projects for. So, right now it doesn't feel like the right time to start a podcast. But
not at all.
I'm excited that we're actually doing it. I think that's really important, especially from a content creation perspective and trying to act out what we tell people all the time. Because we do tell them, like, hey, there's never a good time to, make content, but it's always crucial.
100%.
But I think we're going to be able to facilitate some really cool conversations in this room.
We almost didn't even start this thing this morning. As y'all
we
saw.
almost did it.
So we got to jump right into filming as soon as we leave here. But I think we're all excited enough to we're gonna do this thing. We're doing the thing. So yeah,
gonna be good. So kind of like I think as we were all preparing, we were kind of trying to figure out like what the topic was gonna be, and so we were all battling different ideas, and we were all like, wait a second, we work with creativity all day long. Like it's what our roles are. It's where you guys come from. It's where I've done with and previous volunteer work. So it's like, what if we just talked about navigating creativity? And so we're really excited to just talk about, or at least I'm excited, just to talk about, what creativity looks like in our daily lives, in our families, in the workplace, the challenges of creativity, how creativity, needs to be implemented in the professional side on social media. I mean, there's so many, routes that we can take with, the conversation of creativity. So today we're going to just talk about, balancing work life, and creativity and, just the battle between that.
Yeah, because it's honestly like a little difficult, at least from my perspective, or it has been, because you feel like as a creative, you're kind of trying to catch lightning in a bottle sometimes. You're trying to like capitalize on the inspiration when it comes. And like I was having a conversation with my dad this morning about, the podcast, and I think we're going to talk about this life balance conversation. And he is a certified counselor and stuff. And so I was like, do you think it's possible? And he was like, no, I think it is possible. I think sometimes creativity is a discipline. If we're not disciplined to create space for the creativity, we're not giving it a place to live, then it's going to come whenever it wants to. But if we give creativity a sandbox, then it will present itself in that sandbox. And I thought that was a really cool conversation with him, or a cool perspective. Because like I said, at least when I talk to my wife about it, or she's kind of gotten used to it over the years. So I'm like, I just got to go do this thing because right now is the perfect time, or this idea just hit me. I need to go write it down or whatever. But now kind of being challenged to find the space for creativity is going to be something I'm personally going to try to figure out how to implement.
Of course. I like that analogy with, the sandbox.
I did too.
Brandon, I had a question. Tell me what you think, like, what are some of your symptoms when you're just burnt out? Like, that your work-life balance is just kind of like teeter-tottering, just going up and down. Tell me some of your symptoms. What does that look like?
What are my symptoms of burnout?
Yeah.
Whew.
Like, how do you know you're in burnout?
Yeah, how do you know you're in burnout?
How do I know? Burnout is a very common creative cycle. If you're not a disciplined creative, which I'm literally on the path to be a disciplined creative. I'm not even there yet, So there's cycles. I would say the beginning is the good. You're running, you're gunning, and usually, let me just preface this. I feel like burnout happens because we have a job we want to deliver, and we want to deliver it exceptionally well. And a lot of times as creatives, we will want to over-deliver, and we also want to over-promise what we do.
Yeah.
So we jump into a new job role. They're so you get hired as a videographer. We're looking to get somebody with graphics. Oh yeah, I can do the graphic for you. Yeah, and our website's kind of sucks.
You take it all on.
Bro, I can do that because you want to be a team player, and you know how to do these things. What you've done is you've set an expectation. And so to meet that expectation and then to fail or not to fail, you'll take it home with you you'll live with it and then burn out.
And then you have to overexert yourself in areas of creativity or vocational creativity that you're not used to playing in. Like if I go talk to someone like our friend Christian Hilly that's always doing, branding and logo marks and in typography all day, he's going to be able to accomplish a job in a much less time than Brandon or I, because we live in video world most of the time or photo world.
That's right.
But vice versa. If somebody's not living in that world all the time, you're going to get burnt out by the effort you have to exude in that specific discipline.
And I think for me, kind of going on what you're saying, Brandon, the reason I feel like I take on so many tasks, in whatever workplace I enter, whether this role or whether it's my previous role in banking, whatever role I enter into, I take on all these tasks because of my own insecurities of feeling
Absolutely,
I'm not enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm not working hard enough. So what I do is I try to make up for all those insecurities and take on all of these tasks. And then my work-life balance is just shot.
You're trying so hard.
There's no coming back.
You're trying, sorry, I'm going to cut you off. You're trying so hard to be like the person that you think your boss or whatever someone hired you freelance, that they want you to be and better because you're so insecure that you can't hold this forever. Yeah. And you're like, I need this. I have to have this.
Or you have to be the one to execute all of these things.
Correct. Yeah. And so usually it is a lack of confidence, or I shouldn't say that because you might be confident in one aspect, but you're trying to be, for me, not just a perfectionist, which I do struggle with hard, but I know, I can deliver something really well if I take a lot of time because I might not be great at every aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've done. I've taken things home, and I think burnout really happens because as a 22-year-old single, just me and a dog, I could live that life for a while. Yeah. Bring in a girlfriend. I have a border collie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. And a Jack Russell. Side quest. Love my dogs. But you had a girlfriend did that. It's a little bit harder because now she's going to feel the neglect. And then say she puts up with it for a while, all of a sudden you get married, and she's expecting to see more of you. Yeah. She doesn't. And then you get, this is literally my life, by the way. I'm just telling you my life. Then all of a sudden she's pregnant.
It's been all of our life.
She's pregnant, and then all of a sudden you have a child. So now you have a whole family, and you've built this thing. And now your clients or your employer has, this is what he does because you've set that. Yeah. You didn't go in there. I didn't go in there. I shouldn't say you or we. I didn't go into it confidently saying, I can do this very well. This is a little much.
Yeah.
So that's burnout.
Great answer. Yeah, I love that.
And then you either take a week off of work and get therapy, or you fake calling sick for a while.
Therapy is Disney for you next week.
Quit. Or you quit your job eventually because you're burnt out. Yeah. So.
To speak to that expectation, I funny enough heard it in a place that a leadership thing at a place I used to work that caused a lot of burnout for me but they equated it to like an elastic band, like a rubber band. Like, sometimes you can stretch a rubber band, and the longer it's stretched out past its point, it'll take on that excess, that stretch, and it's hard to get it back to like the appropriate size.
100%.
And so like when you take on like all this extra stuff, you're stretching out that rubber band.
At some point.
And at some point you can't get it back without it breaking or without you throwing it away and getting a new one. Yeah. And that's what a lot of us creatives end up doing is we stretch ourselves to the point where we can't get back to a healthy stretch.
Yeah.
We're not stretching ourselves appropriately. We're overstretching ourselves. And then we can't get back to a healthy balance. And we either have to like let it break us, or we have to throw away that job and go get a different one.
Yeah.
I think Matt, before we go any further than this, Matt said something just beautiful. And I think it's that when you do stretch, it's healthy. Because I think when we go into these roles, like there are seasons, I don't care what job it is, I don't care what it is. There are seasons where you do have to flex. You have to stretch. Your job is not going to be the real easy, like, client work or whatever the job is. Like you have to take on something.
You're going to have to learn.
But if that's the exception and not the rule, then you're still, I feel like, in a healthier spot,
Yeah.
When you can equate it to like your triathlon training.
Yeah.
Like you're going through right now is like, if you're not constantly adding a half mile or you're adding an extra pace, then you're not growing.
Because you've got to be able to stretch yourself in some capacity.
Oh, for sure.
And I think like ever since me starting here at Steven Studios, like I have been stretched so much through team building, through just just different projects we've worked on, through communication. I've been stretched so much, but it hasn't stretched me to the point where I have to break or get a new job. So I feel like that's a great conversation for us to kind of go into. It's like how do we prevent us burning out, so that we don't try to find a new job, so that we don't break completely. I think for me to answer that question, a lot of it for me was communication. I had to communicate with my team. And not only did I have to communicate with my team, but I had to communicate with my boss and say, hey, like this is where I know I failed at, and I need some feedback and I need some support in this. So for me, a lot of it was just communication and then recognizing my own faults. So I had to know like, okay, I made the mistake here. Let me communicate it to the team so that they can support me.
Yes.
Does that make sense? How do y'all overcome it?
100%. I think if you are in the position of like, you don't see it, like you're either going to a new job or like you're exiting a job, then definitely that forefront is being confident in yourself and your skill set and acknowledging, how much you can realistically do, and then bringing that to the table, saying like, I do this exceptionally well. Wow. Like I do this, and just being realistic. Like you're allowed to tell an employer or friend, whoever you work for, like, I do value, my family time, my personal time, my dog time.
Yeah.
My border collie. Yeah.
Border collie.
And that's something that you need. Yeah. And then most employers are going to accept that because that's outside of creativity. That's pretty normal.
Yeah.
And so if you're already in the job and you're already feeling with this, then definitely like just go ahead and have those conversations. They might not go great at first because they might be like, well, you've done this, and you just have to literally be vulnerable.
Well, it's going to be super uncomfortable.
And
it's never comfortable to be vulnerable.
And I'm saying things that I've failed at.
Oh yeah.
Until like recently, So I'm not.
Well, I think it's also that like before you even get hired, I would be honest. Don't try to oversell yourself or not deliver, but exert expectations with an employer or whatever. Just say, these are the things that I'm good at. This is how long it usually takes me to do those things. I value my life outside of work, but I also, when I'm here, I'm going to give 100%.
That's right.
And that way your employer now has expectations as to what you can accomplish within that timeline. And they're not thinking, well, this should only take them an hour, when for you, it's going to take you 2 or 3 hours. You can work towards an hour. You can work towards like getting the efficiency of what you're doing down.
Yeah.
But you're now setting expectations beforehand, And if those aren't good with the person you're like interviewing with or you're going to try to get a job with, then I know it's scary, but maybe it's not the right place for you to work.
Of course.
If they don't value what you value, it's going to end up either going to get hurt, or you're going to quit, or you're going to like just be miserable in those day-to-day activities. But if you're already in it, it's exactly what y'all are talking about: communication, vulnerability. But also, I think there's like a preface to that. You have to build trust and build a relationship with your overseer or with your boss or the people that you're working around, to where you can walk up to them and say like, hey, I'm being stretched a little far right now. I need either you to help me pick up the slack, or we need to figure out a way to mitigate that thing, because I don't want to get burned out. I don't want to leave. I don't want to break, And like in my previous work experience, a lot of my burnout, I hate the word manifest, but I really do. I think it's like a crazy word, and but how it came to show itself in my day-to-day life was I started having panic attacks. And I started just like feeling like I was drowning in.
It's not a good sign.
Yeah, but beforehand I should have there should have been two sides of the story. Like, I should have been more vulnerable about the way that I was feeling, and more honest with my boss, but I also should have had more trust from them that I was being honest.
Yeah.
Like, they should have taken it a little bit more seriously, but I wouldn't change it, because that's what makes me the leader.
That's how we're
I
here
am
right
today,
now too, though.
and how I'm in this building. But it doesn't mean that just because you can take it away, learn from it, and go do something that is more suited to you, that it needs to be okay in the moment either. I think there's work to be done in that time.
Let's I like this conversation. Let's take it from a different perspective. Let's say you're getting into the creative world, and we know about the entry into any new career. Think about it, like especially the creative world, like it's competitive, it's saturated, like, and the grind money like is a thing. Like, now we're not just talking about like burnout, we're talking about broke, and like you know what, and that just more stress.
Well, just taking on stuff for less money than you should so that you can pay bills.
Right. Yeah. How would you explain to somebody else? Because like maybe they're experiencing burnout, but they don't see the way out, because they're like, if I don't pick up more work, we know that world very well.
Yeah.
I just want to hear what you would say real fast.
I mean, that's a tough conversation, because there is a season, and I like, season sounds so churchy and bizarre, but it's true. There is a season where you kind of have to like grind. Like, you just have to grind to get your name out there.
Well, that too, but it's all, you have to work to provide for your family. I'm not blessed with the family to provide for yet. Y'all have families that y'all have to provide for, but like, you have to provide for your family. So there are going to be times like when you have work that comes, you got to work. You got to put it.
Well, here's a good example, I guess. Like, in 2022, I had just had a newborn baby, our youngest son, and I was on paternity leave from a job that I was in just over a year. And when I came back from paternity leave, they were like, hey, the profitability of last year wasn't great. I don't think we can, take your salary into the next year. And before I had started, just like, not to talk, crap about them or whatever, like, we had agreed that like, let's give it a year. And if it doesn't work, then we'll part ways, or we'll reconsider the agreement or whatever. And I hadn't thought about that. So I didn't think, well, the year's up, but I come back from paternity leave and I get fired, basically. I get like and so I've got he was 4 at the time, or 3. a 3-year-old son and like a 3-week-old baby. And as a creative, I'm like, well, I don't have anything on my resume that I can go like get a job managing anything where I can make enough money to like not die and still be able to pay my bills and kind of maintain a lifestyle. And so for me, the grind came in I've always had this idea for a business that I was running before managing 7 studios. It was called Storygate. And
name drop.
Name drop.
Just
he still does weddings, guys.
I mean, for the work-life balance, that's slowing down a lot too. But anyway, I come back from paternity leave, I get fired, and as soon as that happens, I'm like, all right, I need to start this business that I had on my mind, and instead of like worrying about the legality of it, I needed to pay bills. Yeah. So I'm calling every business owner I've ever met, and I'm like, hey, can I do something for you? I just got let go. I have this newborn baby. Being honest with people that I was friends with, say like, do you have any marketing dollars you can throw my way to not only help me get this business going, but to help me survive.
Yeah,
that's a
and
hustle.
Leaning into the community around me and the people that I've already developed relationships with. I think creatives don't think that they can ask things of people.
You were doing very vulnerable cold calls.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and honestly,
you were doing.
creativity's I did not mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Just to speak to what you're saying and elaborate more, not elaborate, quick elaboration. Creativity is often thought as a solo thing, career, when like we've been the most successful when you can talk about it with people. Like people, you think, oh, well, they're going to take my idea and run with it, take my money, take my clients. But like, that's how we've been the most successful is, almost giving out a little bit of information sometimes and networking. I mean, literally talking to people is how you make money being creative. Trying to do it in your bedroom alone on a computer, pushing out there, like you'll make a little bit.
And to the wedding thing, I called a friend of mine that was doing a ton of weddings. Yeah. And I was like, I know you're not on your editing like you should. I know it's like deadlines are getting pushed back and stuff. Can I take on a couple weddings a month or one wedding a month? Just trying to find those like areas of pain or problem areas for people, and using my gifts to like bridge the gap for them, just even in like a small moment until I could really get my bearings on what the business could do, let more people know what I could actually like accomplish for them, the problems that I could solve for them. I think a lot of creatives feel like they have to wait for people to come to them, and they don't want to cold call. They don't want to sell themselves. They don't want to. They don't want to like tell people what they can do for them. But how's anybody gonna ever know what you can uniquely accomplish for them if you don't tell them?
Yeah. Creatives want to be chosen. They want to be like they want to be chosen. Like you pick me. And the reality is, most successful people didn't start off that way. They started off like, you need me.
Yeah.
And so
that's good too.
So
well, how can we encourage our viewers and our audience and each other with maybe they're experiencing just a bad work-life balance. Maybe there are creatives out there that are listening that are like, I'm drowning in work. I'm drowning in this burnout, but I still have to go meet my husband. I still have to go meet my wife. I want to go see my kids and the rest of my family and my friends and have a social life. In what ways can we encourage them, in this specific season of life that they're in now?
Before Matt goes into answers, are really good because he's just a killer.
I've just done it
Killer
for a long time.
That's funny.
Killer speaker.
Well, You go.
No, you're good, man.
This must have been a good question. We're all excited.
No, it's exciting. What I was going to say is that I just think, we just kind of unveiled like what this podcast is going to do. I feel like I've received and I've given different types of advice and not always the best on my way to where we're at. And I'm not there yet. We haven't peaked, but looking back on like what advice I've seen, whether it's given to me from YouTube or from like another creative maybe a little bit ahead of me, or what I've given to smaller people, I haven't always given the safest advice. and not I say the safest because it's not always safe. I haven't always given just the best for the human, not the work, but the human inside behind the work. And I feel like this podcast is going to do that and different, not just burnout and stuff, but like just navigating this world. And so I'm just really stoked. And I feel like we've just kind of broke the first layer on like how we can help people. Yeah. And now Matt's going to take it away.
Yeah.
No, I'm like a Josiah go.
Well, I guess to answer my own question, something I've kind of explored. I'm 24 years old, being a young adult, something I've explored in just my own personal life and my creative work and whatever I do, is I ask myself the question, why? I'm like, why, Josiah? And what I'm asking myself is like, why do I feel the need to pick up this extra task? Why do I feel the need to prove that I'm not enough? Why do I feel the need, to do whatever to not feel like what I kind of lost my train of thought there.
To feel like you're contributing,
exactly.
But not.
Exactly. Ask myself why, and if there's a negative emotion that's tied to that why, then I'm like, okay, what I need to do now is communicate, which is what I kind of talked on earlier. But I want to hear your answer, Matt.
I think for me, the best advice that I could give to somebody that's in burnout is find a way to be vulnerable with either the person that's your boss, or find a way to, like, if you're a solo creative right now, you're a one-man band, like trying to accomplish like video projects, or you're trying to accomplish web design or whatever, either find a community of people you can get around that you can bounce ideas off of.
That's right.
Or hire somebody that can take some things off your plate.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be scary. Like, it's so scary to contract a buddy or whatever to take something off your plate, because you're like, well, what if I needed that money? Or what if I need to, do this, that, or the other thing? But what we don't realize, and what I think creatives aren't inherently good business people. They just usually aren't. And what I've realized from talking to good business people is the meeting the expectation of your client and over delivering is more important than keeping that capital from fear.
Wow. Yeah.
And so when you try to take some capital, invest in your reputation and invest in your mental health, those are always good investments.
Yeah.
As a creative person, those are always solid ways to push yourself past that stretching point, is bringing somebody alongside of you that can carry some of that burden.
Yeah.
And so what I would say to those people is, like, if you don't have somebody around, you're up against, most of us are up against multiple deadlines, and we're like, well, I can get it done because this is only going to take me an hour, and then it takes you 5 hours. And that, stuff like that, is find somebody that you trust, that you can offload some work to, even if it's just getting you to the point where you can polish it up. I mean, that's kind of what I did with Brandon a little bit when I got really busy, was like, hey, I know your work-life balance isn't really great right now, but mine's even worse, or you need some help or whatever. And just finding some people that can offload some stuff to, so that I can be more present for my clients.
Yeah, that's right. Great response. I love that.
I think we need to call this 7 North Royal Therapy.
7 North Royal
Creative Therapy. Creative Therapy. Hey,
Creative Therapy. That's a dope name. But we're already about to paint our podcast name on the side of the building. So
yeah. Well, and we're really excited about that. We got a couple quotes.
That is going to be exciting.
I know. I just hope that this podcast is going to be a tool for creative people, but also a tool for business owners to see, if we're not answering your email right away, it's not because we're not excited about your project or we're not
we might be too excited about it. We don't know when to stop.
We may be just, in the weeds on it or whatever, but also help business owners see how they can utilize creative people to accomplish things. Because I think, like what we were talking about earlier, as far as like finding people that can take some of the things we feel like we need to take on ourselves. I think business owners do that in the marketing space. They do that for their website. They do it for graphic design because they're like, I can download Canva. I can put these things together.
Good old Canva.
You know, I know how Squarespace works a little bit, or I've got my iPhone. I can take pictures and videos and stuff like that. But it's going to those people that live in that world all the time will not only save you a lot of time, but in the end save you money because they're not having to redo it. They're producing things that are actually going to bring business in the door. And that's, at least for us, that's our job, is to make sure that not only the thing we produce for you is going to save you time from having to do it, but is actually going to be effective in helping bring customers in. Yeah. And that's what I'm excited about for the podcast. Is us helping businesses and creatives kind of take the next step and level up their marketing, their creativity, their balance, you know, all that fun stuff.
All through conversation, right?
All through conversation. Josiah, that was the best segue.
All through conversation.
All through conversation. Well, it's been fun having you here today.
Yeah. No.
But on a real note,
let's
pack these cameras up soon because we have to be somewhere.
Y'all have to go fly some drones.
That's the job. Sometimes you just got to pack up and go.
Film some stuff. Yeah. So,
but I'm really glad that we push ourselves to make time to do this.
Yeah.
And people can. When can they expect these on the regular, or where can they find them?
So if you follow you can follow Seven Studios Royal Street on Instagram, Facebook, but you can also see, you know, our podcast, 7 North Royal, and see the clips as well. So they'll be tied together through collaborative posts. So people will be able to check them out and see cool clips and see some funny laughs about, you know, Brandon's Border Collies. So
and they'll also be able to like find them on Spotify.
Did I side quest in this podcast at all?
No, not as much. No,
you did great.
We'll talk about that later. Dang. But Spotify, you know, iTunes or podcast, whatever Apple does.
Apple Podcasts, YouTube, stuff like that.
We'll have it all up, and you'll be able to hear future episodes. So
monthly. Yeah, I was going to say right now our goal is to put them out once a month and deliver some of those smaller
on
clips.
A Tuesday.
You'll see clips almost once a week. So,
Sweet.
Great
conversation.
Thank you, boys.